Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot believe this has happened. A big win inside the US government for cryptocurrency. Now, a lot of people are probably overplaying this a little bit. However, we're going to talk about this new FIT21 legislation that has just passed the House, and this is the largest legal hurdle crypto as an industry has overcome so far, or probably the largest legal win for crypto as an industry. And according to this bill, should it actually go through and become law, then this sucker right here is going to get Gary Gensler away from crypto. However, it's not everything is cracked up to be. A lot of people are really excited about this, but we're going to look at the actual bill. We're going to look at what is it, and we're going to talk about whether it's good or bad for crypto. I will tell you, I think it's mostly good. It's definitely going to be good for price. It's definitely going to be good for regulatory clarity, which we have had none. So therefore, I think it's mostly good, but there are some things I don't love about it. We're going to talk about where does this bill actually go from here? What happens next? Because it still has a long way to go before it actually could become law. And also, breaking news, there's another House bill that just passed that is also a big win for crypto. Nobody's talking about this yet. I'm going to talk about it in today's video, and I'm going to break the news for you right here live. Well, not live because you're watching a recorded video right here on YouTube. Okay, let's get going. First of all, let's take a look at what this bill actually is. This is directly from the Financial Services Committee website here. If you come down here, it says FIT21. This is the bill that passed. FIT21 will protect consumers by strengthening transparency and accountability with market participants. Digital asset developers will be required to provide accurate, relevant disclosures, including information related to digital asset projects operation, ownership, and structure. Meaning, if you want to create a project, you're going to have to basically KYC AML with the government. They're going to have to know who you are, how much you own, what the structure. In other words, you're going to have a real structure, essentially be a real business. And I know that a lot of people are going to love this. I don't necessarily love it because I feel like it gives the federal government a certain amount of control. Like you operate with their approval. And I think it also creates a barrier of entry for the guy who's wanting to develop out of his garage or in his basement. He's super smart, probably a little bit nerdy, and he's passionate about a project he wants to develop, but now he can't develop it unless he jumps through the hurdles to get the approval of the government. And I just don't love that. I mean, I'm all about more freedom, not less. By the way, a real world situation here. This basically means you can go online and see that there are hundreds of meme coins created basically every single day. In fact, I got a video planned on my channel to show you how to create a meme coin. But this is basically saying if this becomes law, you probably could not create a meme coin without KYC, AML, and going through all the legal processes to quote unquote be essentially a legal digital asset of some sort. That's what it looks like for now. So I don't know if I believe it's a net positive overall, but I would prefer not to see it. But I fully expect it when you're talking about a regulatory environment. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Next up, digital asset customers serving institutions like exchanges, brokers, and dealers will be required to provide appropriate disclosures to customers, segregate customer funds from their own, and reduce conflicts of interest through registration, disclosure, and operational requirements. In other words, Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX could have never happened, and that's a plus. They're saying that brokers are going to be required to prove that they have segregated funds, that they're not using customer funds for business expenses. That's a net positive. I don't really have a problem with this part too much, mainly because I think that exchanges and brokers and banks should follow these requirements. They're already a centralized entity. Now, what's going to be interesting is if someone tries to use this sort of verbiage down the road to say that DeFi becomes illegal, if you will, because DeFi doesn't go through these, like Uniswap, for example, wouldn't go through this in any way, shape, or form. At all. There is no segregated funds. Your funds are already segregated in a smart contract. So that's going to be very interesting. We'll have to wait and see how that turns out. FIT21 will strengthen the market by protecting digital asset projects. Now, this is actually pretty good. Digital asset developers will have a pathway to raise funds. They currently don't. ICOs are illegal, so that's very interesting. And typically, if they raise funds, they run the risk of being called a security right now. So this is very interesting. I think that's a net positive. Also, participants will have a clear process to determine which digital asset transactions are subject to the SEC jurisdiction and the CFTC's jurisdiction. Now, This is a net positive for sure. This is good. And this pushes a lot of assets away from Gary Gensler at the SEC. Now, the problem that I have with is most of crypto is excited for the CFTC, and they want to follow under CFTC because it's believed that the CFTCs, I guess, they're a lot more relaxed, if you will. However, I believe that's always subject to change. It just depends on who's in charge, who's in control, and who ultimately puts that person in charge or in control. Whether it's BlackRock or some other financial institution, ultimately the president comes into power, he appoints somebody to a position. He does not know everything about the SEC, about the Defense Department, about the CFTC, about the EPA. He listens to advisors, but all those advisors are all put in place by the money in the US and or the money in the world, really. So it's your large lobbying interests that are going to put the individuals into power and or authority. And then it's what agenda are they going to attempt to push or lead with? You know, Gary Gensler's pushing this ridiculous agenda where he's fighting lawsuits that he's not going to win all of them, and he's using taxpayer money to do it. I mean, it's you know, regulation through enforcement and that nonsense. So it's interesting. This is good that we have, you know, a clear line. This is a digital asset and falls into the SEC, or this is a digital asset that falls under the FTC. That clarity is really, really good, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to let you and me do whatever we want with our digital assets. All right. And by the way, if it falls under CFTC, there's a good shot you're going to have to become an accredited investor. A lot of commodities, the average investor cannot invest in the U.S. So there's that. You got to keep that in mind. FIT21 will provide digital asset customer serving institutions by establishing clear lines between the SEC. Oh, I'm sorry. FIT21 will protect, by establishing clear lines between the SEC and the CFTC and creating comprehensive registration regimes to permit them to lawfully serve customers in digital asset markets. Okay, this is I see this really as part of this one here as well. Again, that's good. We get some clarity. That's phenomenal. People are super excited by this. Brian Armstrong, who I really love this guy in crypto, he's one of the real OGs. He said, wow, 71 Dems voted yes, a total victory. This is a resounding win in the House for clear crypto rules. That's true. It is a resounding victory for clear crypto rules, and we do need that. But it's not necessarily a resounding victory for economic freedom inside of crypto. So you just have to be aware of that. And a complete rejection of the nonsense being spouted by those who tried to kill this technology, and voters will not forget. Sensible regulation of crypto just took a big step forward. Next step or next stop is the Senate. I would agree with that. Let's take a look at what happens next with this bill. So if you're trying to figure out, so how long does it take before this becomes law? If you come down here, right here. So this is passed the U.S. House of Representatives. It's going to have to go to the Senate. It could be months before it gets through the Senate. What happens in the Senate is essentially it goes through committee first. And the bill can die in committee. Basically, it just never gets brought forward, or they revise it and revise it. And lots of bills never make it out of committee. It says right here that approval could be months away before the 100-member Senate confirms FIT21, as there is no time constraint on when senators must act. So they could delay this, and delay this. Even if they do, the bill would likely be assigned to a committee for possible rounds. So first, the Senate has to agree to pick it up. Then they can put it into committee. And once it's in committee, it can go through several rounds of hearings, reviews, and markups. If it survives that, then it would go to a Senate vote. And if it makes it through the Senate vote, then it goes to the president. If the president vetoes it, it could go back through the Senate and through the House, but it would have to get 2/3 vote in both chambers of Congress to get through. So even though this was a big win, we still have a long ways to go till we're truly getting some regulatory clarity. And the problem with this, here's the problem. The SEC could be battling lawsuits this entire time. The SEC could win lawsuits during this time. Then this bill would get passed, and if the bill had been passed, the SEC could not have won the lawsuit. Yet those crypto companies, the damage will be done. There's no going back. That's part of the problem. So we do need clarity. I will concede that we do need clarity. I'm always going to be on the side of the investor, though. I'm always going to be on the side of you and me having the most economic freedom as possible. But I will concede we do need clarity, and if this stuff's going to get regulated, then They're not going to give us a blank check. That's for sure. There's always going to be a power play. That's for sure. And so I would like to see this bill move forward, at least see what happens. It's going to change. Even if the bill moves forward and gets approved, it will not be the same bill it is right now. It's going to go through the Senate. It's going to go through committee. It's going to get revised and reviewed. So you got to keep that in mind. It's a long, arduous, ridiculous process that we're in for. And this kind of stuff pisses me off, to be honest with you. Like, why does it matter? Leave our crypto alone. That's my personal opinion. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Now, big breakthrough moment. Are you ready for this? This is good. I like this, and I think this is a bit more straightforward, and in some ways, it could be a bigger win for crypto in the long run. This is really, really good. Breaking news: the House is preparing to vote on Bill H.R. 5403, which would block the Fed from creating a central bank digital currency, or CBDC. Now, it doesn't mean that we would never have one. It just means that the Fed wouldn't create the central bank digital currency, which is a good sign in my personal opinion. This thing freaking passed. This vote is over with. Look at this. 104 yay, 65 nay. This thing is absolutely passed. It is incredible. It is unreal. This is breaking news. It has literally just happened in the past, hour and a half. So, ladies and gentlemen, this, again, it still has to go through the Senate. Same process as FIT 21. It has to go through all that. So who knows how it will end up. So we're going to be following this closely on the channel. But this is great news for crypto. Two major House wins. Now, it's always easier to win in the House because the House tends to be a little bit closer to the people. In the U.S., the House of Representatives only serve, I believe it's 2 years. So they always, most of them, well, I shouldn't say most of them, many of them are not career politicians. Many of them serve a term or 2 or 3, and then they're gone. It's not the Senate. They tend to be they serve much longer. Many more of them are career politicians, meaning decades and decades. Some of them have been in the Senate. The House has some too, but not as many as the Senate. The Senate is much more, I guess you could say, probably corrupted, if that's the right word to say. So it doesn't mean that these are for sure going to happen, but ladies and gentlemen, it does mean that the House of Representatives is definitely listening to their constituents, and the constituents, the citizens, are definitely wanting crypto to move forward. And that overall is a big plus and a big positive. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Take a look at the video on your end screen now. Decentralized crypto equals freedom. This is Crypto Wealth. I'm out. And unfortunately, this is making crypto a bit more centralized in my personal opinion.